Good evening, everybody. Russ Mitchell, along with Tom Beres, our senior political correspondent emeritus, who decided to
really old guy.
Who was so nice to join us here tonight. And by the way, Channel 3 is on Tom Beres Way. They named the street in front of the station after this gentleman right here. So he is a legend, and it is great to see you back.
I'm turning it into a toll road next week.
You are?
Yeah.
I was wondering how that worked out, so that's such a deal. We'll cut a deal there. It is Super Tuesday, and one of the biggest nights in politics, and it's, as we speak, 9 o'clock. The last polls close at 11 o'clock our time. Those would be in California. 14 states and 1 U.S. territory up for grabs tonight in the Democratic primary for delegates. We have some results thus far, so let's kind of go over these, Tom. Right now we know that Joe Biden, who had that monster win on Saturday in South Carolina, has won North Carolina. He has won Virginia. And he's won Alabama.
All states with somewhat similar compositions to South Carolina, and so pretty much an expected result for him. But for him, happily, piling up more delegates and keeping Bernie Sanders within vision.
Right. Now, Bernie Sanders won Vermont tonight, his home state, and that American territory I was telling you about, American Samoa. Michael Bloomberg won that.
I must admit, I'm not that familiar with the politics of
American Samoa.
But obviously, they respect a fellow who's spending his money.
Well, Tulsi Gabbard came in second place there. So a number of things to watch out for tonight as we move forward. Of course, right now, the more polls are closing, and we'll have results for those in just a few minutes, probably, depending on where they are in the vote count. But the two big kahunas tonight, Texas and California. California being the state where the polls closed at 11 o'clock tonight. Those are the two to really watch, correct?
Those are the ones that have the most delegates, and those are the most populous states, and so those are the ones that will deliver the biggest of the punches.
And we will have, of course, the latest tonight on Channel 3 News at 11. What's next? But earlier tonight, we asked you to text us your question for Mr. Beres regarding tonight's election and elections in general. And you sent in some really good questions. So I'm going to just throw some of these out here. Sir, you ready?
Ready.
All right, here's
lightning
one.
round.
Here's one. Of course, the coronavirus is a big story. And the word is, and before we go any further, the word is from health experts, once again, do not panic. This is not a pandemic at this point, but be cautious and be aware. But a lot of people are concerned about it. Some people are concerned that perhaps the fear, concerns affected the election today. Maybe people going to the polls.
Stayed home. Obviously, people have been advised to avoid needless public exercises.
Sure. Yeah. So this question is really twofold. I'll ask it in terms of today, Super Tuesday. This is the question. Do you think the coronavirus situation will affect the outcome of election? And I'm talking about today, and I'll ask you about the general election in just a minute.
Right. Well, do I think it will alter winners or losers? Probably not, because some people probably stayed home just to avoid encountering other people. But I don't see that people who were Biden or Sanders or Bloomberg backers would be more likely to stay home than supporters of other candidates. So right. It may affect turnout, but I wouldn't think it would affect outcome.
Well, an equal opportunity thing, if anybody's concerned, is what you're saying. Okay, in terms of the general election, could concerns over coronavirus possibly affect that?
I think it's very conceivable. Obviously, people are looking to the federal government to take a leadership role in protecting the country and advising people on how to stay safe. And President Trump has set up a structure to do that and put Vice President Pence in charge. But obviously, we all hope that the number of people getting sick is to a bare minimum, and that the consequences of this aren't as devastating as many people fear. But you have to think that if somehow it turns into the worst imaginable scenario, that there might be a question about the president's ability to manage a situation of this proportion. Again, Mr. Pence's reputation, I think, has been put on the line by his boss. So, depending upon how it all plays out, I mean, Mayor Bloomberg has already been making the case that he has handled emergency health crisis situations in New York before, and that he does not think that the Trump administration has the experience or competence or ability to handle it. So we will see how it plays out. If it turns out to be worst case scenario, where are people going to point the finger?
Sure, exactly. Okay, let's move on to the next question. In the Democratic Party, you need 1,991 delegates to clinch the nomination. To kind of give you some perspective, we're in March right now. In 2016, Hillary Clinton did not have the required number of delegates until I think June 6th. So we've got a ways to go.
A long road to travel.
But there are several scenarios where perhaps the Democrats could get to the convention and a candidate will not have the required number of delegates. So that brings us to the next question from one of you out there. Please explain exactly what a contested convention means and how it will occur.
Okay. Well, this will be a somewhat elementary, super simple version of it because it gets a little more technical. And by the way, this is the way decades ago most conventions actually were run. Conventions were not staged, manufactured entertainment spectacles.
No, it was back door kind of things. Doors closed, cigars,
people building coalitions and deciding who the candidate would be. So what would happen if nobody gets to the convention with 1,991 delegates and they have that first vote and all of the candidates come up short? Then we go to round two, which enables a second class of delegates, super delegates, who for the most part are officials and party leaders and the upper strata of the Democratic Party, to have a voice in all of this. And that would then change the requisite number of delegates that you need to have to, I think, 2,374 and a half.
Okay, all right.
So, again, if somebody gets that requisite number and the second round of voting, then they would be the nominee. But this could continue for as many renditions and repetitions as it takes for somebody to get to what the magic number is.
Sure.
So for that to happen, it might take a lot of behind-the-scenes deal making and old-fashioned horse trading.
Yeah.
What politics used to be about before it got to be so theatrical.
When was the last time something like this happened? You recall? I think this didn't happen obviously in 2016, but I remember the first night of the Democratic convention. Hillary Clinton had the delegates, but there was still a large contingent of people who supported Bernie Sanders. And the first night of the convention, they basically protested. They thought that they had been wronged, and
they made themselves heard.
They made themselves heard, certainly. So we certainly didn't get close to a brokered convention then. If anything even comes close to that, though, that's going to be an interesting time at a convention, as you said, going back to the old days of the behind the scenes stuff. But we'll have to look that up in terms of when this happened last time, because I don't know either.
Predating my active political consciousness.
Okay. This is a question from someone who wants to know: can we go to the Board of Elections and vote early for the primary? Can you still vote early?
You absolutely can. It began on February 19th, where you can go to your county's Board of Elections. You should check their website for what their hours of being open are. But in Cuyahoga County, I think for the next couple of weeks, they are open from 8 to 5 during the weekdays, different voting opportunities on the weekend. But the answer is yes, by all means, you can go cast your ballot in person early at your county Board of Elections. Double check with them, either call or check their website for their specific hours of operation.
Can a voter declare a different political affiliation when they go to vote in the primary on March 17th? In other words, if you've registered as a Democrat or Republican, can you get to your polling place on the 17th and say, I don't want that ballot, I want this ballot?
You can. So, I mean, Ohio is one of those states where just by asking for a ballot of a particular party, well, you have sort of performed an immediate political surgery on yourself here, and are now a member of the opposite party by asking for the appropriate ballot. And you can do that as often or as frequently as you want. And we all know that we haven't heard much talk about it, but I think it's a past election. There's been a lot of discussion about one party telling some of its members to switch to the other party and vote for a particular candidate that might have been deemed a more advantageous or a weaker candidate for, so arguably you could have a lot of Republicans who think that President Trump would fare better against Bernie Sanders,
So
declaring that they're all in for Sanders.
you can game the system that way too. That's interesting. All right, another question. Historically, how many Super Tuesday winners have gone on to win their party's nomination? Super Tuesday winners, I mean, there's so many contests up for grabs in Super Tuesday.
Super Tuesday has been sort of an evolving concept.
Yeah.
It began around 1980 with just a couple of southern states who thought that the South was being shortchanged in the whole election process. So I must confess, I tried to do some finger snap research on this, and was not able to come up with a definitive answer. But I think the vast majority of candidates who've gotten the most votes on Super Tuesday ultimately won their party's nomination. Perhaps not the presidency. Not surprisingly, 4 years ago in Ohio, on Super Tuesday, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump both won the most delegates on Super Tuesday 2016.
Here's a great question. If you early voted and the person you voted for has dropped out, can you vote over?
A la Pete Buttigieg or Amy Klobuchar or Cory Booker.
Tom Steyer.
Right.
Right.
Well, the answer is, did you return your ballot? Did you put it in the mailbox? If you already put it in the mailbox, then you're trying to get your homework in early, but no good deed goes unpunished. No, you cannot get a replacement ballot. Once it's on its way in the mailbox, that is your ballot. It will be duly recorded for whomever the candidate that you voted for is. However, if you either somehow damaged your ballot or decided that maybe you marked it but changed your mind, yes, you could get a replacement ballot in Cuyahoga County. I know you do not have to go through the whole applying for a ballot. You could just call the Board of Elections at 216-443-VOTE, explain the circumstances, ask for a replacement ballot. And you also have the option of, if you haven't mailed your ballot in, decide you want to vote in person, go to your polling place on Election Day. You may have to fill out a separate form for a provisional ballot, so just to make sure that you don't vote twice. But if you had the misfortune to have your candidate pull the plug and you've already put it in the mailbox, regrettably, that's it.
Does it vary from state to state necessarily, or
it does? I mean, different states have different rules. Again, I'm not familiar with but in Ohio, you're out of luck.
Yeah. Again, it is wonderful to have you with us, with your insight and to kind of guide us through all this. We were talking about this earlier. What is it about election night that's so exciting to you?
Well, I mean, the uncertainty of it. You know, I mean, that's the ultimate definition of news. When something important's happening and you don't know how it's going to turn out.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So trying to make sense of it and trying to explain it, and history on the fly.
Yeah, politics. It's so much fun, and you have been a big part of political coverage around here for many, many years.
Well, I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
You know, earlier today we were talking to Blaine Griffin, the Ward 6 councilman for the city of Cleveland, and we were on the air at 6 o'clock, and you and I really had been talking about this earlier, and we asked him. I said, Blaine, if Mayor Jackson doesn't run for mayor again next year in 2021, will you run for mayor? And his answer was interesting. He didn't say yes, and he didn't say no.
Well,
what did you hear?
Oh, the ultimate politician's answer, a definite maybe.
It
covers all the bases.
Right. Since we have this time here, do you see any scenario where Mayor Jackson would run again in 2021?
I would never say never. I mean, depending upon his family situation, we know that he's had a whole lot of personal issues, both wife's health and grandson and great grandsons encounters with law enforcement, as far as we know, he's a regular guy to work out and keep physically trim and in shape. Yeah. But I mean, I would not say never. I mean, I would say the odds are against him running again, but he obviously doesn't want to put his cards on the table. Sure. Well, he still has this much time left to serve because he doesn't want to be the declared lame duck. So, I mean, I think Mr. Griffin and all the other prospective candidates are out of deference, waiting to get some sign or more declarative statement from him.
Yeah. I think you're right. So here we are. It's what time is it? It's about 9:20. So NBC, of course, is on until 11 o'clock with coverage of Super Tuesday. We're going to be back at 11 o'clock to give you a complete rundown of what happened tonight, Super Tuesday. Tom is going to be there. Also, Chantel Brown, the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party chairwoman, is going to be there to give us her insight as well. So I mean, we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and we're going to talk more about this as we move on.
It'll be interesting to talk to her because this whole chaotic situation that she has to keep people in line and people committed, and remembering what the ultimate goal is, and try to tamp down the rivalries and maybe the hard feelings, and keep everybody looking toward the convention, looking toward November.
Sure,
So she has got a tough job.
And the Democratic Party, the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party, has not endorsed anyone yet. In fact, she told me today on the phone that's something they typically will not do until there is definitely a nominee. So anyway, she'll be here. Tom is going to be here on Tom Beres Way. If you drive down here, he may be out there. He may have a toll booth, set up as promised, because hey, it's got his name on it, so he's entitled to that.
Then I have to do the snow plowing and the chuck holes too.
The whole deal. All right, my friend.
All right.
I will see you later.
Yep.
Thank you so much for watching. We will see you back here at 11 o'clock for Channel 3 News. What's next? Betsy Kling in the seat tonight. Sarah is off. Jimmy Donovan, of course, with sports. See you later.
All righty.